Hello all. Right. I get asked a lot, understandably, what's it like to start on the CX? What's it like to start as a van driver on the CX? The problem is, what kind of work is it? Is it busy? What kind of work is out there? The problem is, I'm no longer a van driver on the CX. I was for a long time, driving around in my Luton with a tan and all that. But now I'm driving lorries on the CX and running lorries on the CX. And yeah, we do post jobs for vans, but we don't do that many van work. So I started to do these new videos, which is the fact that just because I've started and 3 years ago, doesn't mean that you guys, a few of you guys that you spoke to you on the comments, and you've been kind enough to write things on the comments, and you started, and a couple of you started this week. So what I thought I'd do, this is new run of videos, kind of straight from the horse's mouth. Whereas a bit like the follow-up videos I do, where it's like, well, don't take my word for it. This is what everybody else says. Well, these are ones, there's two people that have started this week. And I've been kind enough to basically give me a synopsis of how it's going. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read it out, kind of as it's written. And I mean, I'll give you my take on it. But more than that, you'll actually hear two people that have started on the CX this week. And of course, if you want to talk to them, you can go to the comments. You can add comments under that. I think that's how it works. It's something to do with social media. I don't understand these things. But firstly, Kenneth McKenzie, MI5 Couriers, and we're going to start with Barry Smith, because Kenneth McKenzie's like two questions in one, which I didn't realise till I read it. So I'm going to have to answer both. But starting with Barry Smith, he said, your videos, you started me, and he said he tried the same day network. He said, but it was only 50 jobs going in peak periods, so he didn't get much work, so he joined the CX last Monday. He said, first job I got was on the same day network in the afternoon. So he said, I got a load from Northwest 10 to Nottingham by 6 p.m. Got this done, found somewhere to sleep in my van. He's trying to, I think he says, started to convert, he says, start to convert to camper van. Not quite sure. I think that either means he's trying to make it a day van, I'm not sure. He said, the next morning, couldn't pick anything up as I didn't understand the app properly. These things take time. I've done this video I've just done it recently, about competent, incompetent. Don't worry, it comes. Everybody's there to help, and you can't expect to be, no one's an instant expert, just add water, it takes a long time to get, I'm still clueless, I don't know why anyone listens to me, but he said next morning couldn't get anything, didn't understand the app properly, got frustrated and drove frustrated at 2 p.m, sat there until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, drove home. He said, when I arrived home, went straight online and looked on the CX. He said, I followed your advice and bid on everything that was in a 25-mile radius, or so within an hour. He said, I picked up a load out of Heathrow at 6 a.m. to bid from Bideford to Barnstaple. Thought, great, get that done. Probably have to go down to Bristol for a load. Right. In a van, I'd still be looking for 10-mile radius. I travel a lot further in a lorry to get a load, but loads a lot are worth more money. In vans, I would, of my home, I would hope to get a 10-mile radius, particularly from the London area. Admittedly, if you live in Skegness, you might have to think about getting up a little bit earlier and perching up somewhere in a better position. But again, you bid on everything. Certainly scattergun, I agree with that. Bid the price that you're happy doing. If it's a super duper load near you, maybe bid a bit cheaper. If you've got to travel, maybe bid a bit dearer. But anyway, the truth of the matter, and the good thing I did, 6 a.m. in the morning, get cracking early. Either have it on the night before or get cracking early, you get a jump on your day. So that's a good start. Anyway, he says he's in Bideford. He says, I'm thinking I've got no chance getting out of Bideford. He says, he's in Morrison's, got a sandwich, looked on the CX, there's a load coming from Barnstaple to Coglington with a motocross bike. He said, I bid on the job, got it straight away. Another thing to bear in mind, you've got view on map, or you've got around me, click on it, see what vans are about you. If there ain't that many vans about you, you can bid a little bit more. If you're in a sort of rural location and they want to get it off, they'll pay the extra money because they know they pay or they don't move it. So something else to bear in mind. But like I say, it's a learning curve. It all comes where was he? He got the job straight away, went to pick it up. He said somehow seemed to know the guy. He said because he came from his own area, but where he comes from, anyway, got it off in Coglington. He got it off at 7 p.m. The guy was happy to get the bike. Apparently, he collects motocross bikes. And then he went to the local village and said, says, all right, I'll keep in the village overnight. And they kind of went, yeah. So he went and stayed there overnight. Next morning, woke up and started looking on the CX again. Been on a few jobs, but no luck. Went to the outskirts of Stoke-on-Trent. That's JCB. If you ever go to Stoke-on-Trent, it comes at ST14. Be careful. It's JCB, because a lot of stuff that comes out of Stoke is JCB. You can be waiting there quite a long time. You sat in Morrison again with a sandwich, thinking he didn't want to go home empty, so he bid on a short wheelbase job. He got out of Wolverhampton to London EC1 because it's like congestion zone. It took me 2 hours to get in, 2 hours to get out. In London, it takes 10 minutes to drive 1 mile. It is a killer. So bear that in mind, like, well, that's in the middle bit. The outskirts, you're not so bad, but in the middle bit, it's like, if you go over the Red Sea, it's a killer. He said, but I got home and he said, and that was me done for the week. He said, I job's due Friday, and that last job paid his diesel. So, in summary, he said, I did about 1,000 miles over 4 days, 2 tanks of fuel, 250 dead miles, and 750 quid's worth of invoices. Obviously, out of them invoices, you've got to take your X's. He said, like most, it's getting through the next 2 months with the cash flow, because you have to wait to get paid as well. Your subscriber, Barry Smith, a big XL, extra long wheelbase Silver Sprinter, 17 reg, may see you on a circuit. Barry, thank you very much for doing the time to share that as well. Like I said, I mean, it does get easier. It's not instant expert. It's not just add water. It does get easier, but just keep at it, and hopefully there'll be a few. If you watch the videos, hopefully there'll be a few pitfalls you can avoid. But you can't avoid all of them. Some mistakes you just got to make your own, So anyway, also Kent McKenzie's also came at MI5 Couriers. We did the one on MI5 Couriers. He adopted it. Well done, mate. He said, Pete, I've been putting your advice to good use while on the road with the CX for 12 days. He's been on the road for 12 days now, he says, and he loves it. I'm very pleased. It doesn't work for everybody. It's not, it doesn't work for everybody. It's not a magic wand. No one's going to knock on your door and give you £1 million. But it worked for me, and I know other people it's worked for too. He says, doing not too bad with my prices ranging from 0.82p a mile to 98p a mile, depending on if I quoted on a medium or long wheelbase van. Still learning as I go. Of course we do, we learn as we go. I've been given the opportunity to go back to working overseas for the US military, where I would be able to save a good bit and upgrade the long wheelbase, where I've heard the average... He said the average you can get abroad is like £1,000 to £1,200 a week working overseas. I could buy a decent van, curtain side with or without a tail lift, or a 7.5 ton curtain side with or without a tail lift. Not sure that a Luton van or 7.5 paddle jumper with a curtain side and tail lift would average a week. Could you give me a ballpark figure? When I was running in a Luton, my target for the day was 250 quid. Now just double it. I'm running in the truck. My target for the day is 400. Yeah, actually, it's not quite double. Not quite double. It's 400. In the Luton, I could sometimes hit 350. I'd have stinkers. In the truck, I normally hit 5. But you can hit more, 6 or 7. My busiest day was nearly piano. But it was, that was that was quite a day, and I did end up in some castle in Wales at 7 o'clock at night outside Superdrug. So that's your ballpark figure. In a Luton van, I would be looking to bring in, not earn, I ain't earn, you've got tax, you've got insurance, you've got all stuff, 250 quid a day in a paddle jumper or in like a 7.5 ton, or probably I would go for 18 ton if you had the choice, but because you said you got the granddad rights at 7.5 ton, 7.5 tons are fine. I'm still driving a 7.5 ton, past my class 2. That's the last time I drove it this week because I had to swap some pallets over, but I haven't driven a class 2 out on the road on my own yet. Just haven't done it. If we had fleet insurance, I had to deliver a load this morning. I had to swap the loads over. If I had fleet insurance, I just would have driven the class 2, but we haven't, so working on that one. Yeah, I'm losing me thread here. Anyway, let's go back to it. He said, I can see a lot of work on the CX for Luton vans and 7.5 ton lorries. One 7.5 ton driver I met on the pickup gave his opinion, and he said, get off the van and do paddock work. It's the way to go. It is easier doing paddock work because mostly it's fault on, fault off, so you don't have the aggravation of sort of handball. On minor side of things, if you're on a bay, you can be on a bay. One of our drivers on a bay for 4 hours. That's ridiculous. There's a driver shortage. There ain't a driver shortage. He's parked. Get some more staff in his distribution centres. But there's swings and roundabouts both of it. Knowing what you know now, what would you pick if you had your time again? If I'm going to go out on the road, it makes sense if I want to make as much as possible, buy a bigger van for more or less fuel costs at the same time driving. I can drive a 7.5 tonne on grandfather rights, just need other bits and pieces to go with it. So Luton van or 7.5 tonne lorry, that is the question. So it's kind of a two-part video. My answer to this is, if I knew what I knew now, I still would have started with the Luton van. I would have had it converted to a curtain side relatively quickly, and then if I was happy driving the Luton van, then I would have moved into a 7.5 tonne truck. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to trucks. Transport managers, places to park, work time directive, all the tack on all that kind of stuff. So to learn all of that and to learn all the invoicing, the CX and all that at the same time, I think could have been a bit of a sort of a tsunami, like, you know. So if I had my time again, I'd have started in the Luton. I'd have got the hang of the CX. Then once I got the hang of the Luton of the CX, then I got the curtain. Then I got the hang of curtain side jobs. Then when I'd done that, I would have flicked into lorries. I wouldn't have spent 2 years driving the Luton. I probably would have spent 1. But I still would have spent time there. So that's the answer. So that's the answer to your questions. And also, thank you very much for taking the time. So that's 2 guys that have started. Barry seems to be getting the hang of it. Like I say, that was like week 1. And every week gets a little bit easier. Kenneth seems to be making a go of it, and he's wondering what to do. The other thing I would say about your overseas thing, it's always that thing, isn't it? I remember my dad saying to me once, I said about the idea of being a stockbroker when I was a kid. You know, 16, it was all Wall Street and, you know, yuppies and Filofaxes and all that. And he said, yeah, that's fine if you want to be dead by the time you're 40. And I went, yeah, well, what I'll do then is I'll just work up to my, you know, I'll save all that money that I'll be making extra. And on my 39th birthday, I'm saying, yeah, on my 40th birthday, I'll go, right, I'm retiring. And he said, yeah, that's all well and good, but what happens when someone tells you, that says to you on your 40th birthday, yeah, come into work tomorrow and I'll give you another grand? The problem is about going back to the States and earning the money, life has a tendency to just disappear. I always say that, like, these guys, I'm waiting, should I join now? Should I join after Christmas? If you want to do it, do it. You know, it ain't a rehearsal. As my best friend Nigel says, you only get 1 ticket to the gun show. So, but you guys seem to be doing it, and guys seem to be making a go of it. So, well done, you. Thank you for taking the time to write this out. I hope other people can benefit from that. And whatever you do, take care and take money.